Waiting for it to appear. Come on. There it is. All right. It's production time. I'm Reid Stefan, realist puppet in the live stream. And today we're going to be joined by an extremely special guest. If you guys have watched this channel before, you know who he is, but only once in a while do we get to ask Luca Pretolesi questions live on YouTube. So in just a minute, after a few more people join, we're going to be getting Luca in here and we're going to be answering your questions live. So let's see. First of all, can you guys hear me clearly? That's the first question, because last time people said you weren't able to hear us clearly. Let's see. Waiting for a couple more people to come. What's up, Nintendo? Welcome to the live stream. Good, he says I could hear you. Yo, yo. All right. So today is a very special day because, like I said, we're going to be joined by one of the best known and most Grammy nominated engineers in the game, Luca Pretolesi. So without further ado, I guess let's just bring on Luca Pretolesi right now. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing the man himself.
Ooh, hold on. Hello, sir.
All right, all right.
How we doing?
What's up? Welcome to the live stream. Thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
So I heard yesterday was a really big day for you guys. Can you tell us a little bit about what happened yesterday?
We got a Grammy nomination for Dance Record of the Year, which is really important for people like myself because the mixing engineer and master engineer is actually being credited by the Recording Academy equal to a producer or a singer or composer. So
Wow.
That's pretty amazing.
That's huge news in and of itself, just the way that they're crediting mixing and mastering engineers.
Yeah, it's incredible. If you go on the Grammy website and you see Diplo, On My Mind, and then Diplo, producer, side piece producer, Luca Pretolesi, mixer. So that's awesome. And there's only a few spot on the Grammy where the mix engineer has received an actual Grammy, which is Song of the Year. Again, Dance Song of the Year. There's only a few. If you get like Album of the Year, the way I received with J Balvin a few years ago, you're not getting the actual Grammy because that goes to the album. So the Dance Record of the Year, it's perfect. I didn't expect it, to be honest.
Amazing. Well, I mean, it was such a huge surprise, but honestly, now that I think about it, it's not that huge of a surprise. It's such a good song.
Man.
It really was my favorite dance song that I've heard. So I know it's always exciting, but I can't say I'm surprised that the nomination went to you guys because it really was just such an outstanding piece of work. So congratulations.
I really appreciate it.
We're honored to have you here on this channel answering questions with us.
Well, that's
if
awesome.
any of you guys are not yet familiar with MyMixLab, that's an educational platform that me and Luca actually started together.
Yes.
And every single week we're posting a tutorial either from me, from Luca, or from one of our friends. We have a lot of really well-known friends in the industry who are sharing their knowledge with you guys too.
Yeah.
And all of that is available at mymixlab.com when you have a subscription. And speaking of that, it's Black Friday week, which means only $89 a year to get subscribed to Black Friday, to get subscribed to MyMixLab using the Black Friday promo code. So
amazing.
It's really the best time of year to get yourself some of the best quality education that there is out there. And for now, we're just going to be getting to some of the questions from the live stream.
Absolutely.
That's really enough introduction. So,
and by the way, Reid, interesting fact
yeah.
about the Grammy record, that was the first video on MyMixLab ever.
Yes.
So
And it's
Yeah.
also available for individual purchase too. So if you're not a subscriber and you just want to watch how Luca mixed and mastered On My Mind by Diplo, you can go to the website and just purchase that course too.
The also
So
interesting fact about the video that it has so many subtitles. You
yep.
can
Yeah.
like read in Italian, Portuguese, and so many languages. So it's awesome.
Yep. German, English, Spanish, Italian, and
Wow.
Portuguese are all the subtitles on that one. So it really is a school, a university for the world to learn mixing and mastering.
Yeah.
And what a pleasure to do it using one of the world's best songs this year, On My Mind
You
by
know, and
Diplo featuring
like
Tidepiece.
the interesting fact that we picked that one because at the moment it was kind of like very exciting to show more about On My Mind, and then because the fantastic relationship with Diplo, it was totally cool to let us use that kind of like to open a door to MyMixLab. So and see this
Yep.
like the recognition and everything else. So feels good.
Yeah, what a pleasure. So speaking of, let's see, MyMixLab. Someone actually asked a question about Acoustica, which is something else that you have a big, exciting announcement with.
Oh yeah, man.
But someone specifically asked, when is Acoustica dropping that Black Friday sale?
Actually, tomorrow, because they're based in Italy and then hit at midnight Italian time. So means that we should get probably here in the States midday on Thursday. Yeah.
Very, very exciting stuff. Yeah, I heard that some of the DMI plugins are going to be over 60% off,
Yes.
which
Yeah.
is a tremendous savings. So
Guys,
I highly recommend.
best time of the year. Like I think Black Friday became a point where you kind of like collect your idea, what plugin you want to get, and you pull the trigger Black Friday. So for Studio DMI, the Diamond series, it's going to be an incredible sale, and including the new plugin with Mike Dean Gain Station. It's just like okay. It's going to be an expensive day, you know, but long term, it just saves so much money.
Yeah. Yeah. Black Friday is really the one day of the year I get plugins. And then my New Year's resolution is to not buy any plugins that whole year. So there's
Exactly.
like a short window of the year where I do all my shopping between Black Friday and New Year's resolution time, because I know if I
Yeah.
don't make that resolution, I'll just keep buying them. And all these
Just keep
companies
going.
keep saying, hey, would you like to try this? And yeah, it's important to really learn some of your old tools than it is to keep
Yeah.
adding new tools as well. So if you just pick up your first bundle of plugins from the Acoustica website, you'll be surprised at how long that's going to last you. For example, like the stock plugins that come with your DAW,
Yeah.
get a lot of people started through the first few years of their
Yeah.
career. So those Acoustica plugins are going to get you through the next
Yeah.
few years of your career. In fact, you're still going to be using them no matter which plugins you have. I pretty much have all of them, and I still go for my Acoustica ones
That's
the most.
awesome. It's also there's an interesting fact that with the new Apple M1, we did some testing. It's unbelievable. So the Air is running something like 100 diamond color Q. It just the good news
Whoa.
is the CPU issue that we might add in the past is gone.
Wow, that's great news. I actually had to upgrade my computer because I am a
One
plugin
second, I
addict,
lost the
and
audio read.
Did you lose all of it or
There you
just
go. Got it.
mine?
You're back. Yeah.
There we go. I was saying I had to upgrade my computer because I have a little bit of a plugin addiction where I have a tendency to run 30, 40, 50 plugins at the same time. So I have a feeling that's going to be extremely helpful for me.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Someone asked if we have any favorite UAD plugins. I could definitely share my favorite. Auto-Tune I use all the time. The Manly Voxbox is such a great like all-in-one vocal chain. The
Yeah.
EMT 250 reverb sounds great on every vocal I put it through.
Yeah.
I use that one a lot. The distressor, it's just the distressor. You can't not have a distressor.
Exactly.
And the Vertigo Mix Satellite is good for some advanced stuff. So
Yeah.
those are my favorites. So do you have any favorite UAD plugins, Luca?
I do. I like the CL1B. I like the A2A Silver. I find myself use the Envolution from Sonnet on the UAD format. So yeah, so many. I think even the AKG Spring Reverb, it's kind of cool to use in mono. So many good ones.
Have you ever used reverb on your master? I've seen that in Ozone, and it's an option. I always wondered if anyone's ever done that.
So the reverb in your master might be an option to create side information. So if you
Mm,
do strategically on the upper mid range, you have a feeling of like openness of the master, but be very careful. If not, you risk gonna make your master look cloudy when you put stuff on top and you lose a little bit of a separation definition. But tiny bit of reverb might open up the side a little bit.
Someone just sent us two really good questions. Their first question is, how do you achieve perfect balance between kick and bass?
Guys, first of all, make sure, in my opinion, the tail of your kick, it just as a crossover point, let's say, with the bass, that makes sense. Because sometimes we go crazy on EQ and understand changing and distorting where it's simple about the envelope of the kick and the envelope of the bass, if it makes sense. Very important.
And their second question is, what's your favorite way of using reference mixes if you have to compare one song to another?
I try, first of all, to make sure that I match the level of my reference. Biggest mistakes that I see over and over again, they were taking a very compressed reference track and we A and B with your rough mix that's not compressed at all, and maybe you have like 7 dB of difference, and the reference feels better, punchier, like cleaner. It's just louder. So first, make sure you match the level first. And number two, take an EQ, put on both channel on the rough on the reference, shave everything down to 300 hertz, and just A and B that part, 0 to 300, and then focus on the movement and the low end bump that you have between your rough and the reference. Then now do the 300 to like 3K and just focus on the like lower mid range, upper mid range, and see what's going on. So that's a good way to do it.
Wow, that's smart to look at isolated parts of the frequency
Yeah,
spectrum
just
instead of just comparing the whole songs.
can
Is
be
there a plugin that helps
overwhelming.
you do this easier?
Say again?
Is there a plugin that helps you do this easier, or do
Yeah,
you have a
yeah, yeah,
specific
yeah. I
referencing plugin?
love to use the metric A and B. It's part of the Plugin Alliance plugins. Very cool. It's so light on CPU. You put on the stereo bus. You have different crossover points, presets. You can also customize that. And then you can also see. So you can isolate the low end, the mid range, and then see the stereo field on every part. It's very cool.
That's awesome. I actually see you using that in almost every course on MyMixLab. It's always up
I
on the
do.
top right corner of the
Yeah.
screen, that blue and
Yeah.
orange one.
Also because the blue and
Really
orange
handy
one, I
plugin.
give a, like a visual idea what's okay when I'm listening, what I'm, yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. What is your method slash recommendation for stereo effects at the final part of mastering?
For example, Ozone 9 Imager is really good for that. I'm always worried that try to make the song super wide, we're gonna start to go out of phase everywhere. So be very strategic. If you listen your song, try to think, okay, what element feels right at the moment? What part of the mix I try to make it more stereo and open. In my case, it's almost like a tree shape. I stay kind of like mono, and I open up the tree, essentially the side, on the kind of lower mid range, 300 to 600, 700.
I remember
Then
this.
from there, I still kind of open and I close again. And then I close at the top because I'm worried that the open hats, the ride, the crash, the tail will not translate well on my small tweeter when I have too much side information. So essentially, in my case, I go for mono, up the stereo, and then close right on top.
Got it. Another question, actually, I think I can answer this one. Someone was saying, what's the difference between a bus send level or a bus fader level? And that would be if you're using a bus to add reverb to a vocal, you could use the send level
Yeah.
to choose how loud that vocal triggering the reverb is, versus you'd use the
Yeah.
fader level to pull down the volume of the finished reverb. So it's kind of like having an input volume versus an output volume, even though they're very similar and it's easy to confuse.
True. There's another interesting fact about old school mixing techniques when you had a desk and you have like 3 reverb or 2 reverb and 1 delay. And back then, what you do, you take your snare and you feed a little bit of reverb. You take your tom, you feed with the same reverb, right? But then now when you go on the vocal, use a different reverb. And doing that way, you kind of glue your mix because now the drums, for example, they're sharing the same room, the same space. Makes sense. So try to don't overdo reverb and delay when you're putting a different reverb, a different delay in every single track. If you do that,
Yep.
you kind of like unglue the mix too much.
Yeah, and you kind of take away the ability for the song to feel like it's happening in a real space. Because
Exactly.
every sound feels like it's in its own space. They don't feel like they're in a space together.
Right.
And yeah, when you're mixing, it's really about making all the sounds work together and to create a landscape, an audio landscape, I guess you could say, for your
Correct.
listeners. So that's a great point to avoid using so many different reverbs together.
Right.
It's going to make it harder to achieve the end goal.
Exactly.
Let's see. Someone said, should you sidechain reverb? I love doing that,
I do too.
especially on styles with really heavy, noticeable reverb.
Yeah.
You're going to start to lose your lyrics if we're talking about vocals.
Yeah.
And obviously, a hip hop or pop song or anywhere where you really need to understand the hook and everything that you're saying, reverb is going to take away from that. So, sidechain is going to help you have both be really clear at the same time.
Very true.
Let's see. Should the lead vocal be louder than all the instruments, like kick and snare in particular, or should the kick and snare be louder than the vocal?
In my case, it's like a stylistic approach. For example, when I work on K-pop, the vocal is always really in the front. It's really based on the style of the music. There's no right or wrong.
Yeah, and for a lot of hip hop, people want to really feel like the snare is just disrespectful and the kick is disrespectful. And a really easy way to achieve that is by balancing it slightly above your vocal. So it depends on the finished goal of the song. If you're trying to make it sound like it's banging, then yeah, the drums are going to be the priority. If you're trying to make it a really memorable vocal record, then yeah, your vocals are going to be your priority.
Yes.
But it's usually going to be a choice between those two as your most loud instrument.
Yes.
It's not very often where you'd want something else to be the most loud. Let's see.
Exactly.
How do you use mix bus processing? So I guess we'll ask Luca that first. What's your favorite way to use mix bus processing?
So in my case, there's always a little bit of confusion about the mix bus processing and the mastering chain, two different things. So in my case, I mix through compression and mix through EQ. This means that if I have a session with 40 stems or 150 stems, what I do after I do my leveling and I'm good to start, I make an initial decision. My track is too dark. Okay, great. I'm gonna use an initial EQ on my stereo bus to kind of like give air to the entire mix. Doing that, I'm gonna minimize individual channel EQ curve. That if I don't do that, I'm gonna have 40 tracks with the annoying curve that everyone's gonna be almost the same. So I do one time. And then compression, I have my techniques that I share multiple times actually on my MyMixLab about mid-range compression. Means like I'm not multi-band compressing the stereo bus. I just simply compress more than mid-range to keep the track more in front of the speakers on the mid-range.
I love that. This is a great question. So let's say a client comes back with a note and they say the mix is lacking depth. In your head, what does that mean? What would you go to adjust in the next version to give them more depth?
Okay. Well, that the combination of use of reverb, for example, panning, dynamics. If you squash your dynamic and make very loud, very limited, you start to lose depth because you bring everything front. So I would say it's a combination of dynamics. So let the song breathe a little bit more, and then a little bit of placement, panning, and then reverb. Then not necessarily reverb means like 10-second reverb. Means like a little bit of pre-delay, and then a tiny bit of room space to create some side information.
For me, that could also be a matter of production. Do your effects have dry moments and wet moments? The wet moments aren't going to feel that wet without the dry moments. Dry makes things psychologically feel very close to you. If you're whispering something into your microphone and you leave it very dry, that's going to sound like the closest thing anybody's ever heard. Now, shouting into your microphone and putting a bunch of effects on it, that's going to sound as far as possible. So how much depth do you create with your use of wetness and dryness? You know, how close does this sound and how far does this sound? And what's the distance between those within your song? So to me, that's what creating depth is all about, is creating some contrast between your effects or lack of effects.
True.
That's a really great question. I love that. Let's see. Does it make any difference between adding drums on tracks versus making a drum rack? I think
for
people
you,
are saying
Reid.
like doing the audio clips, straight on the timeline, or doing it as MIDI. I think the difference would really be the options and flexibility that you get when you do it as MIDI. The sound should be exactly the same. If your DAW is doing a good job sampling your audio, it should be playing back exactly the same as it would be playing back if you dropped your kick on the timeline instead of dropping it into a sampler. So the difference should just be the options that you have to reshape or repitch a little bit easier than you would working with audio. So I wouldn't say the difference is really in the sound quality, it's more in the workflow. Let's see. How do you test how loud your music will play on streaming services? That's a good question.
Great question.
I know there's a plugin for that. I forget what it's called though. Have you ever used that plugin that simulates different streaming services?
There's a few. To be honest, I don't. Now we kind of like have our way to approach streaming, and we kind of like find a way that actually works. So I changed my mind. So in the past, so let's say 3 years to 4 years, the loudness optimization and the minus 14 laughs of Spotify, and then YouTube, they change over time the level. It was just unnecessary going back and forth, try to chase what it was the request. We end up doing something very simple, very effective. That is like a loud master that has been approved by the producer or by the label. That's good to go. And then as a studio here at Studio DMI, we provide a dynamic master that it's streaming friendly. So we are not following the minus 14 laughs. What we do one that's under clipping level. That way it's timeless. So we don't know if Spotify in 5 years from now will go to minus 9 or minus 12. So if we stay to minus 14 today, eventually we'll be too low at that point. So we say, what about if we provide the best quality, no clip master for streaming, either Apple Music or Spotify or any other stream? And that works best, in my opinion.
Someone asked if you need to buy third-party plugins to make industry standard sound quality, and I say no. In fact, I think some of the best sounds in mixes come from stock plugins. Those often are the ones that you know the best. Those are the ones that you can do the best with. So don't feel like that there's something holding you back if you're just using your stock plugins.
Right.
However, if you are considering getting some third-party ones, this is the best time of year to do so. But we already talked about that earlier.
Yeah.
Let's see. MP3 or WAV for streaming? Luca, would you recommend uploading MP3 or WAV?
Well, certain aggregator, they don't give you an option. They make you upload the waves and they do everything. Again, for us, working also with a lot of major label, we give every option. One thing that I recommend, when you export an MP3 file from a wave, lower your wave minus 0.3 dB, and then export the MP3. The MP3 eventually will go up plus 0.3 to avoid clipping on the cheap DA. It's a good idea to lower a little bit the MP3.
Got it. Someone asked a really good question about living in the United States versus pursuing your career in a country like Italy. Were you doing mixing and mastering when you were in Italy, or did you come here to pursue that?
I like this question. I can talk for hours. So I moved here 18 years ago, right? So a long time ago. I would say that my career as an engineer kind of spikes here in the States. But I create my foundation over time during all my life in Europe. I need to recognize that here in the States, any work that it's post-production on music is recognized more than Europe. So a mix engineer, a master engineer, for example, on scoring, sound design, everything as a place in the music industry here in the States more than in Europe, unfortunately, for now. But there's also, I understand why historically from rock music into rap music, always been like a moment, and then a little bit of celebrity engineers make a role into the production. So yeah, that in my case, it was also a moment, music, where EDM in the States became popular, and I was very lucky to be right there, to be part of hits or record. They became very popular, so that's kind of like helped my career a lot.
Wow. Yeah, that's really something special to think about. As someone who grew up in New Jersey, that's not even something that I had to consider. Where I grew up in New Jersey, there was not much of a music industry. Even living close to New York City, there was a way to go talk to people like record executives and people who ran record labels on the East Coast. But even not living near the West Coast of the United States was a little bit challenging, feeling like you're a part of the music industry, or feel like more like you're not a part of the music industry. So
Right.
even having been lucky enough to have been born in the United States and have the option to move at any point, yeah, I even felt like there was a little bit of a challenge not being in Los Angeles up
Yeah.
until like 7 years ago when I moved here too. So
Right.
yeah, that's a completely relatable question, but I think it's really decentralizing now in a good way, where
Yeah.
there's not so much of a requirement to be here. In fact, there's something really interesting about people who aren't. There's something almost like exciting and more unique about people who embrace the fact that they're not from a common music place like California or
Yeah.
United States or anywhere
Yeah.
like that. So don't think of it as a setback.
No,
Use it
no.
use it to your advantage and make yourself unique with that fact that you're in this unique place.
Yeah. Most of my friends of like client or producer across the globe, they are at the point that thanks to the technology that we have, the limitation is gone. So like 18 years ago, the face-to-face to be able to go in LA and hang out with like an A&R, and now we FaceTime. So regardless, where are you? Plus, we're living in a world right now that even if you have an option to go face-to-face in LA, you'd rather just do a FaceTime anyway.
Yeah, you're gonna have to Zoom them anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so switching gears, someone said, what is oversampling? Does it matter? For example, what is it doing in standard clip when I see you using it?
Okay, can I go on this? This is a little technical, but it is worth it.
Yeah, we have to know.
So when you limit your part of 44K or 48K, half of that is going to be your space before you going to have aliasing. So if you work at 44, at 22K and over, you might have aliasing. And how it works? It's folding noise on top of your spectrum. So everything's happening after 22 will fold back on the 22, 20, 19, 17. That's why when you're working not oversampling, might sound a little harsh. You say like it's a little harsh, a little artificial. That's aliasing. So when you oversampling, you're tricking your DAW. You're saying, hey, we are upsampling, let's say twice, right? We are sampling to 88. And then when you go F, you go to 44. Now you have plenty of space to avoid aliasing. And that's very important. To give you a very extreme perspective of what it is, you ever convert an MP3 by mistake 128? And that's kind of like the extreme effect of low quality
The digital
apply
artifacts.
on sampling. Yeah.
Got it. That's actually that makes a lot of sense. So that is an option in Ozone. It's an option in Standard Clip.
Yeah.
It's an option in FabFilter. It's going to hit your CPU really hard because, like I said, it's kind of like double processing, but it might save the way your whole song gets glued together in an amazing way. That's always something that I experiment by A/Bing.
Yeah,
to see
Reid.
if I like it
And also
better
another
or
option
not.
they recommend is test it really quick, bypass or turn off the oversampling. Now we are ready to bounce your mix, turn the oversampling on and render.
Got it. Someone said, what makes the gain station plugin unique compared to other distortion plugins?
Oh my God. It sounds, I mean, it's coming from me. Maybe you can take like an infomercial, but sounds like when on purpose, I make any piece of hardware that I have in front of me on my desk, you can see right now, distorted. That's the way it feels on the gain station. Feels like, let's say, an old way to do distortion emulation was always with the R ceiling. Means you can distort it, and then breaks. The gain station never breaks. You keep pushing, and just shape the shape, and it's adding second harmonic, third harmonics in a super musical way. So if you go and listen the big Kanye records that Mike Dean did with a lot of distortion, harmonic distortion, that's what you're getting. If you want to do a subtle, let's say, trap low end with little clip and bump with a Pultec curve and into a clipper, that's where you're getting. It's stunning. There's also two. There's the boost, which is one knob that's a combination essentially of a preamp, clipper, and a EQ curve hitting a brick wall that sounds fantastic on the individual sounds, and then you put the full gain station on your drum bus or your stereo bus, and then you kind of like get like the harmonics with the saturation that makes a finished record. It's amazing.
What was funny was when I tested it and you sent it to me yesterday, I was trying it out on a record that I had just delivered as finished, mixed, and mastered. And I used it exactly like you said on my drum bus. And I said, hang on, guys, can I resend this to you actually again? I have a better version. It sounded so good on the drums. I didn't even dive that far into using it on vocals. I was having so much fun with it on my drums bus. Every time I kept turning off, I was like, there's no way this is what my mix used to sound like before I had this plugin on it.
Happened to me too.
It was working wonders on my drums.
Man.
I could not believe what I had considered finished myself before this plugin existed. Like I said, I mixed and mastered it again and resent the song in, sounding even better, and said, here's a better version. Thank you so much for that. I mean, it's already made my job easier just trying to deliver something, because when people have been hearing this song that I've been producing for a couple months and they're like, okay, send us the finished mix and master version. Bam! I need little tricks. I need little tricks to make it sound like I worked on it and went in and made it sound like a whole new breath of fresh air. And just by doing that to the drums group, oh my goodness, it sounded like the mix and master was on a whole nother planet. So
awesome.
In the best way. So I absolutely loved using it. I have to dive more into the one knob version.
Yeah.
I can't wait to try that on vocals. No matter how loud you turn it up, the signal's not going to clip coming out of the one knob one?
No, the one knob, you have an option. You can select where everything brick wall to 0. So you have a bump on the low end and then just hit the 0. Or you can put EQ post clipping. So you clip, you have a bump over 0. So you can choose that.
Nice. And I remember you said that there's going to be an amazing Black Friday deal on the Mike Dean plugin. Do you remember off the top of your head what those prices were?
Oh, it's going to be amazing. I think
it was.
Yeah, I think like 39 for the boost. And then I'm maybe like 89.
I think it was 79 for the big one.
79 for the big
89.
one. Yeah, so it's pretty good. I mean, this plugin has been like a journey. You guys have no idea the amount of hours of Mike, myself, the entire Acoustica team behind this product. It's just crazy.
What's your favorite part about working with Mike Dean? I know a lot of my fans are Mike Dean fans too, and would love to know the question.
Mike is the coolest one. The way I can describe Mike, he has no filters. It's extremely musical as a person. So we spent a day in the studio. We literally chatting and talking, and Mike was playing like amazing chords with his Prophet. So it's like somebody that. Music, it's actually him, so I love working with him.
Yeah, his music seems so honest. Like the way he plays the keys seems unfiltered too. It just seems so brutal and so aggressive and honest, like you said.
And it feels timeless. When I hear him play, that can be, I can hear his music in 10 years from now. It'll be great, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Someone asked when it drops. It's coming out on Black Friday, right?
Yeah,
or but technically like the night before, because in Italy it's like Thursday.
It's coming out tomorrow, Thursday. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, so it's gonna be out in just a couple hours, like almost 24 hours from now. It's gonna be out, just a little over 24 hours from now, and then you guys are gonna be able to get it at the Black Friday deal. And then I would imagine after that, the prices are going, it's like half off right now. So the prices are going to be like twice as much after the deal. So if you're considering this plugin, you may as well just go ahead and get it now because it's a beast. Yeah. They're not kidding when they say that it is a beast of a distortion.
It's unbelievable. And also, I know it's like a topic about, hey, where I can find the crack plugin. Okay, what it is Acoustica. It's not possible to find a cracked version of that plugin. Like straight up, it's impossible.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate, or I guess the fortunate truth for everybody.
But guys, I strongly recommend, outside of this plugin, in general, purchase the plugin, update the plugin. It's very important.
Yeah, and you'll also be able to open your projects years and years from now without issues.
Exactly.
That was always a huge issue with people not purchasing plugins. Going years and years down the road, they can't open their song anymore.
Exactly.
Let's see. I love Acoustica plugins. It's very CPU heavy. What's the solution? Actually, they said there's an update coming for all the Apple M1 chips that are going to make it much more light on CPU. Luca was saying that earlier in the chat that they have some serious updates coming that are going to change and revolutionize the way plugins get handled by CPU.
Exactly. 100%.
Amazing stuff. Let's see. Do you have a #1 golden mixing tip, not a mastering tip, a mixing tip that you could share with everybody? Do you have a golden rule?
Well, I think I do. I have so many. I tried to pick one that can be like.
That was a really vague question. That there's probably are many answers
let me share something that I do now with success. Might be an idea for others. Even if you're not a professional mixing engineer, but if you mix for somebody else, or like let's say you're a team, your buddy is working in production, you're mixing, deliver first an instrumental test mix before you hit with the entire full mix with vocals and everything. I'm doing this now for about 3 years. And it was my good friend Dave Pensado recommend to say, Luca, when you send to a client, especially when it's a team of multiple people, make them commit and approve the instrumental mix before you send the vocal mix. If you send the vocal mix too soon, people, they need to understand too many changes at the same time, and then will make them freak out a little bit. Versus you commit on the music, and now when they're getting the V2 with vocal, they kind of like psychological approve the music, and they're gonna focus on the vocal.
Wow, that's an incredible tip. I never thought about delivering it split up like that, but that's a brilliant idea, especially when you're making significant changes to the way something sounds. Not just doing like a stereo master, obviously you can't do that, but when you're taking people's full songs and really doing some transformative work, that would be a great way to kind of ease them into the new way that it sounds. All right, here's another really good one. So say you're mastering without your analog gear. What plugins would you go for to best emulate that sound quality?
Well, depends what I'm trying to do. If I want to respect the mix and don't reinvent anything, be very transparent, actually, plugin might work better than analog, period. I want to be transparent. I'm going to work on linear phase EQ. I'm going to do a touch of dynamic EQ, maybe with a Pro Q. If I want to just kind of enhance a few things, I'm going to do very transparent clipping and limiting. Again, if I'm going for final touch, clean mastering. Now, if I go for reshaping mastering, then I'm gonna have like more analog mentality on a plugin. So in that case, if I wanna have like a groove and movement, I might use the diamond transient to kind of give like this compounder effect, which is expansion and compression at the same time. I might use an SSL G emulation to give like the SSL sound. And then I'm gonna do analog sounding EQ. They're based on samples. So can be the color EQ, can be a Pultec emulation, a good one. And then limiting, in that case, I might do a multi-stage limiting. When I do a little bit of clipping to kind of like shape the peak of the mountains, and I do it maybe with a standard clip to keep kind of like very clean. And then I do a stage of limiting to make it a little thicker. It can be like Fat Filter Pro L, and the Diamond. It can be like anything that you like that give a little bit of attitude at the end.
Nice. Let's see. If someone is just beginning as a mixing and mastering engineer, taking on clients for other people, what are some things that they should do that they may not have thought of? Obviously, you want to work for free and volunteer your services for the first time, but what are some things that they may not have thought of that they should do to get their career started?
Well, don't be afraid to go back to potential client and be generally open to help based on what you think you can really do to help the song. So you're not going to sell your service. You need to make sure that you are confident on what you can do to elevate the quality for him. Don't worry about money. You just want to bring value. Then eventually we'll turn on money later.
That's an awesome question. Another really good one that I see is, what are the options for people who don't have access to acoustic treatment to achieve professional sound quality?
Headphones.
As mixers.
Headphones.
Nice.
Yeah, I think a bad sounding room, it's going to really change the way you approach your mix. Headphones, without play too loud, make it comfortable in a way that you can talk with your friends and go back to work on headphones, might give you a better result if your room is not treated properly.
Got it. And if they're using speakers, is there anything that they could do to set them up in the right spot of the room? Or if you don't have treatment, you're better off just using headphones than using speakers?
Yeah, and if you use speaker, maybe to relieve a little bit your ears, what I recommend is make sure the position is right. A lot of problems happening when you have off position of the speakers. Then now on top of the resonance of the room, you're gonna have almost out of phase of the room, which is really bad. And then play really low and avoid a sub if the room is not treated. Play low, but headphones will win probably.
Yeah, and a couple different pairs of speakers are going to help you too, because obviously you're going to be questioning what you're hearing a little bit because of the situation in your room. So having a couple different pairs of speakers to say, oh, well, at least it sounds good in all of these, will give you the confidence that you need to know that your song is in fact done. Let's see. Someone asked, what is your technique when you first start mixing? Loud or quiet? How do you start? I usually start quiet. I don't turn it up loud until the very end. And then I also like to walk out of the room when it's playing loud and listen to it from out of the room. But getting started, I would say everything is really quiet. I'm often working with people, so I don't want the speakers to make it hard for us to talk to each other. So that's always my go-to. That's always my go-to. But if you're talking about like gain staging, I would just make sure that we're not in the red on the master too much. A little bit where that you can't hear it is all right in my opinion. But if your stems are smashing your master through the red, start grouping things up and pulling your groups down a little bit, like 2 or 3 decibels per group.
Exactly.
Let's see. Do you use a sub when you mix, Luca?
Really low, really low. I have a sub, so I have a full count SM11, I have a sub 6 in the middle, in the back of my desk, that is extending a little bit the 40 hertz that I might need. But when I turn the sub off, it's still okay. It's just like a tiny.
I love this question. At what point do you stop focusing on individual sounds and start focusing on groups and the mix altogether?
Yeah. So when I listen to rough mix, I try to be a listener myself, and I'm taking notes, right? So, this and there's like a peak, a ringing that I don't like. I want to make sure that the hats, they're fighting with the rides, just like right notes. And then before I dive into EQing, I do leveling. So I go back and I start to adjust level and I listen again. Okay, now I switch to EQ. So EQ wise, there's anything that might help if I reshape EQ wise. And I do that really quick. When I'm getting to the point that I'm comfortable about leveling EQ of the mix individually, now I go on grouping. That can be, okay, I want to have the drum to be glued together better. And then it will be an SSLG on the drums, for example.
That's awesome. Another question is, do you switch monitors in your studio or do you just use your focals?
I use this focal 11 all the time. Maybe when I do like passive listening things, I use the 45, the small focal, but the 11, they're my go-to, yeah.
Another person asked, is it possible to get individual videos off of MyMixLab? Actually, yes, it is. Just starting this week, it is. And in addition to being able to get videos individually, you're also able to subscribe for a whole year with a huge Black Friday discount. Right now, it's only $89 for the entire year of me and Luca's tutorials and all of our friends too. We have some of our best friends doing great guest tutorials on MyMixLab, and only subscribers are allowed to see the guest tutorials. Some of the ones from me and Luca are up for purchase, including the Diplo On My Mind course, which actually that song was just nominated for a Grammy yesterday.
Yeah.
Which is huge for you. How many Grammy nominations is that for you now?
I have 6.
That's insane. Yeah, so if you want to see exactly how Luca mixed and mastered the Grammy nominating dance hit On My Mind by Diplo featuring Side Piece, you could purchase that course at mymixlab.com, or you could become a subscriber for the whole year, and you'll have that one plus all of our new weekly uploads. Every single Monday at 9 or 10 a.m., depending on when I get out of bed, we upload a new course. And yeah, so like I said, it's either going to be me, it's going to be Luca, or one of our best friends every Monday. you can count on it. And game-changing course full of techniques, hit songs. We really try and focus on what you guys are asking us to learn. We're always going through our Discord community and looking through the questions in the comments to see what people want to know. And we're always replying to comments on the Instagram account. So if you want to get in touch with MyMixLab or make a suggestion for what you guys want to see next, you can head over to MyMixLab on Instagram or the YouTube channel. And we actually have Henry Fong this week, and we
it was
have
so
a
good.
little snippet. We have
Love
a
it.
4-minute clip from, it was a 45-minute course, 4
Sweet.
parts, and we're going to be posting a free 4-minute section on Henry Fong's YouTube channel tomorrow as a little
sick.
Black Friday giveaway. So there's going to be a free course. We're taking the part about how he mixed the 808 with all stock Ableton plugins. And you're
So
going to love
cool.
this course because it's not just mixing and mastering, it's production too.
Yeah.
He goes into how he fused kind of like a hybrid EDM trap with reggae. And it's a really well-made, in-depth course. And you're going to love the presets too that we have. Every course at MyMixLab has a whole bunch of preset downloads.
Yeah.
And like I said, everything at MyMixLab is $89 for the whole entire year as a special Black Friday discount.
crazy.
So that's super exciting. And over on Acoustica, you can get all of Luca's plugins for like 60% off at a huge discount. There's also huge discounts on the brand new Mike Dean plugin that we were talking about earlier. If you guys check out my Instagram, you could see that I was messing with it. It is a really intense distortion plugin. We got time for just a couple more questions. Let's see. Do you reference tracks straight from Spotify, or do you find a high quality of it and drag it into your session?
Yeah, I prefer to find WAV version, put on the session, sync it, make it equal level with the mix that I'm working on, and I prefer that. If I can't, am I able to play on Spotify? I much prefer put on the session WAV file.
Oh, here's a good question. There's a lot of answers to this question. Someone's asking, why do I suck at mixing? And that's honestly something that a lot of people ask really early in their career. And there could be a lot of reasons. The issue could be the production.
Yeah.
The issue could be the way that you're listening to your mix is giving you the information that you need to realize that there's a mistake. The issue could be that you're not referencing or comparing songs to yours.
Yeah.
Or if you are, you're not really sure what to do with the difference. You know, like you can hear the difference, but you're not even sure where to start. But I would definitely make sure that your production is satisfactory, because it's going to be really tough to mix a bad production and make it sound exciting. So that would definitely be my number one step, is make sure that it's even time to be mixing. Make sure that your production is done. You know, it's very easy to watch mixing tutorials and think that's how you finish your song, but really you're not even ready for that step yet. So there's many answers to that question. I hope at least some of those helped you find some guidance as to why you feel like you suck at mixing, because honestly, it can be very easy and it can be very fun for anybody. You just got to get the right idea and the right tools and a little bit of knowledge about how to put them together. Let's see. Do you use Diamond Lift on the master?
I do. Lift is one of those that I mentioned before. I put post clipping. So if I do standard clip, when I shave like 1 dB or 1.5, then I put lift to do a little bit of exciting, limiting and clipping. So lift, it's an emulation of an AD converter clipper. It behaves in a different way. So if you put after a standard clip, for example, you're getting the loudness and the attitude of a converter that is clipping. It's really cool.
Yeah, that's a great way to say it, because standard clip, in comparison, you'd think they do the same thing, but standard clip is very clean and transparent sounding, whereas I find lift to be very coloring.
Exactly.
I find lift to be very flavoring.
Exactly right.
I find it to be very like transformative too, whereas standard clip is something I would put on where I wouldn't want you to notice that I put something on there.
Exactly. So that's the purpose.
That's usually how I decide which tool to use. I also love using your Diamond Transient plugin before lift, or really any transient shaper before any clipper, because they just go together so well.
Yes. Well, if you think about it really quick, the transient, it creates expansion, and when it hit the clipper will flat, but we let the expansion point hit. So you're gonna have a kind of like a perceived dynamic master, but with the loudness that you want. So that's a great way to approach.
Got it. And let's see, we'll take one or two more
Oh, I
questions.
think I lost
Have you
you.
ever tried the Sound Goodizer? Uh-oh,
Okay, you back.
am I back? Okay, good. Someone asked if I've ever tried the Sound Goodizer. I think that's an FL Studio
Yeah.
stock plugin.
Okay.
Yes, I have. I haven't really used it too much yet, but I love the name, so I had to try. It was like one of the first things I tried when I loaded up FL Studio. So yes, I have, and I liked it. It wasn't like
Right.
OTT, but I could see what they were going for. Let's see. If you want to see how I use FL Studio, I did a whole template on mixing a hip hop track with vocals in FL Studio. So FL Studio users are absolutely going to love that. And that's also one of the courses that you can purchase
Yeah.
individually at mymixlab.com/shop. And let's see. Final question. What are your tips to correctly dial in a compressor? I'll let Luca answer that first.
The way I do it, it's initial phase. I exaggerate on purpose. I want to really understand the attack release time. Also, what I'm going to do, I'm gonna change the envelope. So, for example, I want to get like more control on the attack, more extension. What I'm looking to do first. But again, I exaggerate, and then when I find my attack and release and ratio, I step back and I find kind of the sweet spot. And sometimes I over compress and I use the mix knob to kind of like let the dry come through and kind of like a blend between compression and no compression.
Awesome. My favorite thing to do is really base the attack and release time off of the tempo and cadence of whatever I'm compressing. If it's something very fast and percussive, I'm going to use a slower attack and a faster release. Yeah. If I'm trying to completely control something, I'm going to do the opposite. Yeah. So the attack and release time are something really important for me to dial in. And then I also, you got to kind of find a perfect balance between threshold and ratio, because they're very easy to confuse too. The amount of compression that you're doing and the amount of attenuation that you're doing are two separate things. So I always make sure that my attack and release are correct, and then I go for my threshold and ratio. And usually a 2-to-1 ratio if it's compression on a vocal, and like a 20-to-1 ratio if it's a parallel compression. And I usually don't do anywhere in the middle. I'm usually really high or really low. But yeah, so we'll have that be the last question for today. For anybody who wants to get the best deal on all the videos at MyMixLab, like I said, only $89 a year. For the best deal on all of Luca's plugins, you can go over to Acoustica on Black Friday, and they're going to be selling all the DMI brand plugins for 60% off. Mike Dean's brand new gain station is going to be like the same thing, like 60% off. And that is an incredible new plugin. There's so much good stuff going on. Whole Loops is selling everything 60% off. There is tons of fun stuff going on this holiday season. If you want to see my overview, I just posted it on YouTube last night and on my Instagram this morning, where I'm breaking down all the best Black Friday deals. I picked out like 10 things that you can get off the internet for incredible deals this holiday season. Luca, once again, congratulations for adding another Grammy nomination to the list.
Thank you.
We're so honored to have you here, and what a blessing it is to have you answering our questions here on this YouTube channel. We appreciate you so much, and we can't wait to see your next MyMixLab tutorial. It really is a pleasure. We look forward to having you on again soon. And thank you to everybody who joined with questions and comments. All right.
Fantastic.
Peace out, everybody.
Peace.
Yeah, we're gonna cut this up into clips, and we're gonna share this with you guys on the MyMixLab channel too.
Awesome.
Let's
see you, everyone.
Right. Peace out, everybody.
Peace.
Hey.
Bye.
Woo.